so that we can move forward. See what the world needs now, a bit more than a love song. All the hate ain't got us nowhere, new slaves wandering through the forest. When it's all said and done, we that move with sound, wait and stand in your truth, still your eye or bound. In that moment arise, lose the shackles from your mind, choose your vibration. Peace and love, everybody. Welcome to That So Calysōl. I am your host, Calysōl. You tuned in today on the Feel Good Talk Network, hopefully on YouTube and Facebook. I hope everybody's having a good, great, fabulous year out there. I just needed to take me a good old deep breath. Today, my topic is bleeding money. Now, this season 2 of That's So Calysōl, I've chosen to focus on finances because it is something that is very dear to my heart, especially within our community. It's a conversation that's almost non existent. And I think that what ends up happening is we end up winging it. And as we figure things out, we don't necessarily share or reach back. Now, here on the Feel Good Talk Network, you have a few of the casters that have awesome conversations about finances. So I'm super excited to hopefully collaborate with some of the content creators on here during this season of That So Cali Soul because they've got good content. Now, one of the names of the show is Success on Purpose. And then we also have Ask a Realtor, where you can ask all your real estate questions because I got questions about real estate. And then we have some archives videos of the show Making Money Moves with Melody. And she talks a lot about retirement, savings, and different stuff like that. So, good evening, everybody. I see Will is up in the house from the Lovebirds. Good evening, Will. Great to see you. So it's the beginning of the year. And what I noticed is these media outlets, they start ramping up their their output of stuff to market to people who love to consume. It's like since it's the beginning of the year. Oh, I'm sorry. Charles said, and Charles is our wonderful network director here, Charles Brakely. He said that that show Success on Purpose has changed their name to Unstoppable. So y'all make sure that y'all go back on the Feel Good Talk Facebook page and on the YouTube, and y'all can pick up and catch up on some of those videos. They're very, very informative. Now, again, like I was saying, because it's the beginning of the year, the society that we participate in is marketing to consumers and not just everyday consumers. They're marketing to everyday consumers. But what it seems like they really marketing to is people who have a little bit of the level of toxicity with their consumerism. If you notice now, they are trying to sell cell phones. You see furniture commercials. You see car commercials, fashion commercials. They're just like here, 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 here. Now, if you think about it, it's the beginning of the year, which means it's tax season. So they know everybody's about to get their refunds. And I'm just curious if anybody out there knows what maybe they've spent like their last 2 to 5 years worth of tax returns on. If you can remember that, just type it in the chat and I'll holler it out on my end. But for myself, I'm a small business owner, so I don't typically get a refund. The two times that gotten a refund recently is once the pandemic hit, I noticed that the government started creating all kind of incentives for us to have easements. So they gave us a little bit of money back as small business owners. And I was really glad for that. Now, in my 20s, I used to blow through some money. Fatima West, good evening. Fatima said, "Girl, it's the setup. It is the setup because they know we don't." Let me tell you, this iPhone that I have right here, this is the iPhone 8 Plus. Now, I don't know what number the iPhone is on today, but I know mine is very outdated. But I'm like, it works just fine. It's got cracks in the back of it. So what? I got it in a case. It ain't cutting my hands up or nothing. It's functional. I can check my email. I can call people. I can get online. I'm like, I'm not about to buy no new cell phone. But I do know people that buy like a new cell phone every time a new cell phone drops. They're like, yo, it's got the newest technology. It's got a better camera and all of this stuff. But I'm like, you know, I'd like to save my money. And on top of that, I'm like, $1,000 for a cell phone? I ain't gonna be able to do it. Okay. I'm gonna ride this phone till the wheels fall off. Hmm. Like I said, we're gonna focus on finances. I have an awesome book to suggest for this month. It is by Chris Hogan, and it's called Everyday Millionaires. Everyday Millionaires. How ordinary people built extraordinary wealth and how you can too. Now, I just want to Fatima says, I invested in stock. Oh, this is what Fatima did with one of her refunds. She said, I invested in stock, used one as a down payment for a house, built an emergency fund. She said, I have a whack phone, but it works. Fatima, let me tell you something, girl. You one in a million. There ain't that many people that utilize their refund that way. A fair amount of the people that we know in the community, I've seen folks buying lizards. Matter of fact, don't even talk about the stimulus check. Girl, people were going crazy with that stimulus checks. I remember people getting playgrounds in their backyard for their kids, buying lizards, pit bulls, rims for cars, and I know some people that also invested their tax returns and their stimulus checks wisely. But I do see more people not utilizing their money wisely, and then it catches up to you. When I think back to my 20s, I blew through so much money. It was ridiculous. But I had never seen so much money. I'm a hairstylist and a musician. So being able to make your own money is like it's flowing through your hands like water. My conversations in my house growing up about finance was make sure you pay your tithes, which those of y'all who aren't familiar with tithes is 10%. You pay your 10% to God, and that goes to whatever church you attend, right? And then you pay your bills after that. And for me, I would pay my tithes faithfully in my 20s, honey. Matter of fact, I was paying tithes since I was like 12 years old. And then I would have all of this excess money. So I'd be like, well, shoot, I'm about to go to Atlanta, Dallas. I was all over the world. That's another thing that they're promoting right now is all these trips. You see it on social media. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going over here, I'm going over there. And most of the time, I'm not knocking anyone for traveling because I did that. And I also would like to ask the question like, in all your travels, say like if you go to Dubai, what was your purpose for going to Dubai? Like, did you really take your time to see the local culture and immerse yourself in it, learn some new words, eat some new dishes, or was it all about the photo op? Like, I just want everybody to know I'm over here in Dubai. Did you do some mission work? I know some people that make sure they attach mission work to their vacations. There's an organization called Recess Getaways, and when we went to the Dominican Republic a few years ago, we made it a point that everybody was to get like some of their nice shoes that they knew they wasn't gonna wear no more that would be beneficial to someone. Not your old raggedy shoes, but like the good stuff. And they wanted us to bring like 3 pairs of shoes. So we took those on vacation, and then when we went, we donated them to a local shelter there. And let me tell you something. Those people utilize those resources that we bought with us. So it's like make sure that you're enjoying your life, but attach some good to your luxuriating as well. Let's see. Fatima says a refund ain't for no freaking couch. And Will says, I've learned more so to tell my money where to go versus letting it slip into the void. And that's real. You got to put your money to work. That's like Drake said, he make money in his sleep. A lot of people don't understand what that means when it's like I make money in my sleep. I make money in my sleep, but that's because I've invested in stocks, bonds, IRAs. I wish I worked for a company, but I'm grateful that I work for myself because those of y'all that work for these companies that have these 401ks and those contributions, oh my God. Like you got a company that says, hey, if you do this, we're going to match what you give. Hands down, you ought to do that. Don't even worry about like missing the money. They say that you should make your contributions up front, especially when you paying yourself. Make your contributions up front so that you don't even see it. It came out of your check, it's gone. Like some folks spend $400 a month on Starbucks, right? When I was in my 20s, child, oh my God. A handbag? Let me tell you, I bought my first designer handbag when I was 20. And I still have that bag today. Excuse me. It was a really poor decision though, because like I was saying, my financial conversation in my house in regards as to what my mother taught me was make sure you pay your tithes, make sure you pay your taxes, don't get into credit card debt, and don't ruin your credit. But she never really went into detail as to how can you ruin your credit? What is going into credit card debt? So let me tell you, at 19 years old, they gave me a Discover card. And child, I ran straight to the mall. I must have went to the mall within like the first month of having that card. Straight to the designer purse store. We ain't gonna say no names. We don't want to give them no pub. And bought me an $800 purse, okay? With my credit card. And I didn't understand anything about compound interest, anything like that. So I was like, oh, and they sent me the bill and it says I only got to pay $25. And at the time, I had the $800 to just pay it off, right? But I was like, shoot, I could save 750 and just gone ahead and throw them a little. And I thought I was doing something good because I threw them a little extra. They wanted 25, I gave them 50. By the time I finished paying for that purse, an $800 purse turned into a $1,200 purse. Now, what type of sense does that make? I thought I didn't know nothing about interest and had not had an extensive conversation about what debt was and how it occurs. Okay. So, again, this is my book recommendation for the month. I want everybody to pick up this book. You can get the live book. I know some people like to hold on to the live book and read through pages. Other people don't mind listening to it on audiobook. I will say this, and I'm an audiobook enthusiast. Chris Hogan's voice, for me, I had to move through it. I was like, I'm gonna just keep on listening to this man, but I really didn't like his voice. When I listen to audiobooks, I have to really like the narrator's voice. But Chris narrated his own book. And once I got past his voice, I was like, okay, I'm learning here, but yeah, you can check it out on Audible if you want to listen to the audiobook. They also have the ebook, and then a lot of you, in regards to wanting to check out a book for free, don't forget about your library apps. There's an app called Libby that is amazing. You can put any library card from any county in the US, most counties. You can put it into Libby's system. You put your library card number in, you create a profile, and then you will have access to all of their digital archives. They be having movies on the app, ebooks. They have the audible forms of the books. They got music. So don't forget to tap into those library apps so that you don't have to pay, or so that you don't end up with a bunch of books on your shelf that you really don't need. Because I know, like with me, when I moved some time ago, I had to purge my library because I got a full collection of books, and those books get heavy. So I want to read some of my comments here before I get a little further. Let me see. Hey family. Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Okay. So going back, Fatima West says, yes, in my 20s, I was good rich. Girl, wasn't that a mess? I wish that would. I don't know. I guess, like, Fatima, did you work for a corporation or did you work for yourself? Because I feel like sometimes the corporations, they do push you um, to make responsible decisions, whereas like working for yourself, you're winging it. So you learn as you go. Maybe you took some financial literacy classes. For me, I thank God that, like, toward the end of my 20s and into my early 30s, I really started listening and tapping in to my circle of elders. And my elders that could get through to me, right? They would say little things and plant little seeds, and the seeds that I actually, heard, I would follow through on. Funny story I'll tell y'all. When I bought my first house, I was 25. And boy, I wish I would have had some sort of home buying literacy before I did it. Now, fast forward to this house that I live in today, I had to take a first time home buyers class, which was hilarious to me because I was like, this is my second home. And it's like, yeah, no, with the first home that you had, So my first home I purchased at 25, which was my dream. It was one of my goals. I was like, I want to purchase first house when I'm 25. And I didn't know what the difference was between a 30-year mortgage fixed, a 15% mortgage fixed, and a arm. And what is that? An arm loan is the one that I actually got, which was adjustable rate mortgage. And then now they have some interesting mortgages coming out too that I feel are very adjacent to the arm, because I could have sworn that once Obama got into office, he kind of got rid of the adjustable rate mortgages. But what happened with me with my adjustable rate mortgage was, for the first 3 years, you were only paying interest. So your payment would be a little bit lower, which felt good, right? Because it's like more money in my pocket monthly, you know, I'll do this. And then you're supposed to refinance it before 5 years. Now, the economy began to fail in like 2006. It was starting to turn, right? And I had just purchased in 2004. So I'm getting ready to go and refinance this house, but the economy had changed. So when I went to go refinance, the house was upside down. So they would not allow me to refinance unless I came to the table, to the closing table with thousands of dollars. I want to say they wanted like 23,000 somewhere and some change. And I was like, have 23,000 to just pull out of somewhere. And because I had no knowledge, I just basically walked away from my house and it went into foreclosure. Now, fast forward to today, I'm like, I see the value in first time home buyer classes. I see the value in investing in myself. I see the value in taking a certain amount per month and making sure I stash it away. Rainy day fund, emergency fund. I had no idea that your emergency fund was different from your rainy day fund. And then even different from your savings account. And then you have your retirement account. So I just started investing in myself in like my 30s. So I got catch up to do. So now I keep myself on a strict budget. Strict budget. Won't be using no tax refund for no sofas, phones, a new car. I remember I wanted a new car maybe about 10 years ago. And one of my elders told me, she said, don't go get a new car. She said, do you need it? And I'm like, no, not really, but my car is super rickety, I want to get one. And mind you, in my 20s, I was used to driving luxury cars, Jaguars, Land Rovers, and stuff. That was some of the stuff I blew my money on. That was also some of the stuff I lost when the economy failed because I couldn't keep up all of that. But then it's like, who are you trying to keep all of this stuff up for? Like, and keeping up with all of this stuff now, keeping up with the Joneses and the Evans and the Andersons and the folks on the IG and the folks on the TikTok, like, whew, it's not cute, but some would say it might be cute today. And then you're gonna get down the line and you're gonna be trying to look towards retirement. And you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, what have I done? I threw all my money away. The other day I did a little bit of math on the tithes that I had contributed when I was going to church and tithing on the regular. And I was like, well, I wonder how much just like throw out what I made in my 20s. I was paying 10% on what I made, so I would contribute about 4,500 a year to my church in tithes and offering. And I know that because they would give us a statement at the end of the year. And I was like, okay, so if I've been contributing 4,500 a year, let's say for 30 years, I've done that. How much money would that be? 135,000, and 135,000 is how much I have potentially contributed to my church. And I never thought to give myself 10%, let alone the 15% that most financial advisors say you should give. And they said in this book, he says that you should be setting aside 15% of your income for retirement. And I'm like, it probably need to be more by now. Let's see when he wrote this book. He wrote this book in 2019. So that means he was probably writing it in 2016, 2017, brought it to fruition in 2019. Yes, it might be 20% by now, maybe even 25%. Um, but just imagine, I like I said, I've been around a lot of elders, so I get to see elders from both sides of the spectrum, from all across the spectrum. I see the elders who were just like librarians, teachers, social workers, corporate corporate executives, maybe just someone in a corporation, customer service representatives, mailmen, and those people who have taken just a little bit of what they earn and made sure that without them even seeing it, it went into a retirement account. Now, those people are able to retire and not have to worry about nothing. They not, struggling. Some of them actually are living quite plush. They're like, "Oh, I've got so much money that, I put it over here and I put it over there." And that's my model. That's my method. I'm like, I've been once I started contributing to my retirement, I started putting money in everything that shows up that will benefit me. And I put it in the crack of a camel's behind if I need to. Because I'm like, is it gonna grow? Let's put it over there too. Let's put some over there. But yeah, the method that financial advisors give you is low and slow. And that's how you get it done. Y'all ever heard that saying? How do you eat an elephant? Do y'all know the answer? One bite at a time. I was like, oh, I heard that on the Jill Scott podcast. And I was like, oh, gosh, you've just taken a task that seems so ginormous, right? And simplified it just like that. One bite at a time, one step at a time. Fatima said she got that book. She haven't finished it yet. Well, we're going to read it now, okay? Let's read it. And then when we come back next month, we're going to talk about it, okay? Get back to my little comments section. Charles says, as long as the phone and the technology is functional, I will use it till the wheels fall off. Amen to that, Charles. And Fatima says, now I'm adulting, so rich is different. You can't see my portfolio. Honey, she said a mouthful right there. You can't see my portfolio. Look here. Patti LaBelle, something silver back in the day. And she had a song on there that was called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Let me tell y'all, go listen to that song. But that's real talk. Like us people that are making moves, honey, gangsters move in silence. If anybody from the hood, I'm from the hood. I'm hood refined now. But people from the hood, no, gangsters move in silence. You don't really go around yapping and yelling from the top of the mountain what you doing, where you going, and how you doing it, honey. You get real quiet and you get to work. Hmm. Yes, indeed. Fatima also says travel for experience. I don't want to go where everyone already went. Yes, meet new people. Experience the actual culture, not the tourist culture. Amen to that. I am planning a trip to Jamaica, and normally I stay at the resorts. And from what I understand, Jamaica can be a little bit um, dangerous, depending on what areas, but that's everywhere you go. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm done with that resort life. I want to stay at a local hotel and kick around and see what's up. Now, I'm not about to do that wearing all my designer stuff and all this, like you got to be real chill. Go enjoy yourself. And see what the local culture is all about. Matter of fact, my church that I attend Universal Truth Center Miami in Miami Gardens, and I live in Denver. And the way I'm able to do that is the Foundation for Better Living has all of their churches online. So I'm actually able to tap into my Sunday service every week in my living room, up in the mountains at a gig, whatever I need to do to tap in wherever I'm at. If I'm on a cruise ship, I can tap in to their broadcast. And I just found out that they have a church in Kingston, Jamaica. So I actually would like to go and worship there when I go to Jamaica this time because I don't never stay in Kingston, but I always go to Kingston while I'm in Jamaica because I have to go to Devon House to get the rum raisin ice cream. Yes, I had to close my eyes as I said that because if y'all have ever had Devon House ice cream in Kingston, Jamaica. And I'm so glad that they don't put it in the tourist areas. Devon House Ice Cream Shop is right there in Kingston. Kingston, the hood, honey. It's where all the people be. It's where the Bob Marley Museum is. Like I love being there with the locals and enjoying that. And I'm like, what cow y'all get this milk from? Oh my God. That is this. Ice cream tastes like it just was freshly made by your auntie or something. mm. Fatima also says, when I went to Haiti, I came home with nothing, left it all there, all my clothes. Oh my gosh. It isn't that a blessing? And yeah, you know, it's interesting how we live our lives now, especially how things change generationally. Fatima just said something that's big. When she left Haiti, she left all her clothes there, which I assume she's saying she donated her belongings to the locals because they needed it. I remember when I was in Dominican Republic, which Dominican Republic is a very interesting place that I probably never need to go to again because of the politics and how Haiti and Dominican Republic are all on one landmass. It is one island, but it is absolutely separated. They don't have no wall like what your boy was trying to build here, but it's definitely enforced that the Haitians belong over here and the Dominicans belong over here. And one thing that I experienced while I was out there, we went horseback riding into the countryside and down to the beach. So this was off of the resort, right? And we started off the horseback ride in this very groomed place where they keep the horses and where they do all of the like what you call that, the dirt, the uh RTVing and stuff. It was like another manicured place that was just for the tourists, right? But if you pay attention when you're riding these buses on your way to these places, you will see that there are favela all around you. You also, it really hurt my heart to see like empty bottles of from water that were just strewn on the side of the road, all of the garbage that we generate as tourists when we go to these countries. We create a lot of garbage when we go to these countries. And it's not their garbage on the side of the road. Their garbage is there too. But I'm almost betting that 70% of that garbage that you see on the side of the road is from American tourists. Because what do they need with, like water bottles and stuff. I mean, like Nestle bottles and stuff like that, just strewn all across the countryside. The kids were coming out of the favelas onto the road where we were riding the horses. And they're like, lady, 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 money, money, money. And I didn't take any money with me because I was like, oh, we're about to go. We were going to go take the horses into the ocean. So I came with minimal stuff. And I told the kids, I said, I don't have any money. And they said, give me your shoes. And I was taken aback. I was like, what? Anything for them would be of help. I looked at their feet. They didn't have shoes. Who knows if the kid that's running by my horse fits my shoes? It doesn't fit my shoe size. It don't matter. For them, they could take that shoe and give it to their auntie, their mama, their sister, their grandma, sell it, make them a little money to get them some dinner that night. Who knows? But like, we should definitely be more mindful when we go into these countries. Another thing that I seen that was very interesting was colorism was alive on the resort. You've seen all of your highly melanated people. They were outside working as gardeners and they were working as maids. And it was hot in Dominican. But your inside staff that dealt with you, it was more of your lighter melanated people. So I thought that was very interesting. And then me being a chocolate woman, I would go to the desk and have to deal with the ladies at the desk, and they almost ignored me, but I wouldn't allow for that because I'm like, honey, I work hard every day. I spent my money to be here and come relax. Like, you're gonna have to speak to me. I'm gonna need some cookies. I'm gonna need new bed linens, whatever it was. But colorism is really alive and rampant in that country. Um, so it's not really a place that I'd like to return to. I would like to go and see Haiti and give some of my tourism dollar there, perhaps because I haven't seen it yet, and I want to see what that other side looks like. Because from what I understand, I talked to a few locals, and they were saying with the market, that the central market that is there on the Dominican Republic side, these people get up from in early in the morning from the villages in Haiti, and they make the trek miles and miles and miles to get to the central market to sell their wares. Before they will let any of the Haitians in to take stalls for selling their goods, they make sure that the Dominican line is cleared completely and all of the Dominican people have a seat so that they can sell their goods. And then they will let whatever amount of Haitian people who have traveled all this way to sell their goods for survival. This ain't for fun. They will pick from the line and let them come in. So there might be a day where you make your trek from the village to sell your wares, and this is how your family eats and how they put clothes on their back, maybe get uniforms for the kids for school if they're even allowed to go to school. They will turn those people around if that market is full. Now, the market is probably 90% full of Dominican residents. So how fair is that? So like I said, that's one of the reasons why I don't see myself going back there. But I digress. I've gotten off on a tangent. Charles says, "Yes, I love traveling. I love traveling too." And Fatima is talking about the match. She said, "Do it. Match is nice. Do it. Match is nice." She's talking about that 401k. Yeah, like if the company is gonna match what you give or match 50%, honey, whatever they gonna give you, take it, take it, take it, take it. You're gonna need it in your retirement. And I can't believe that retirement is a conversation that's not had in the community until it's too late. We don't start talking about retirement sometime in the community until it's time to put a reverse mortgage on the house. I can't wait to speak to um, the realtor about that because I've been seeing a lot of people that have been experiencing reverse mortgages, whether it be like a relative passed away and there come to find out there was a reverse mortgage on the house that had to be satisfied before the what do you call it? Not trustee. I'm lost for words, but before the families whose name have been put on the inheritance and the will and all of that, and the insurance policy can take ownership of the house, they got to satisfy that reverse mortgage. But that's another thing that I see that is marketed heavily to our community. Um, and I don't know if people have noticed, but like these commercials, you'll pay attention from now on. These commercials that come on, the main people that you see is ethnic people in the commercials. They're selling to that demographic, a demographic that is like eat, 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 instead of create, build, you know. That's um that's kind of a brain boggle, right? It's like, why aren't there an equal amount of a diverse amount of citizens shown in these commercials? They're always marketing to people of color. And Fatima says, I meant hood rich. Charles says, yes, interest will hurt you. Yeah, so I did. I was trying now. I don't know if y'all use Chat GBT, but I tried to get Chat GBT to formulate for me of that 135,000 that I potentially over 30 years could donate to my church, what the compound interest would be on that over time. and ChatGPT referred me to a financial calculator. And when I entered it in on the Charles Schwab financial calculator, that $150,000 amortized over the time of 30 years at the rate, and I picked a rate that was randomly in one of my CDs. I have different CDs and Roths, but I was like, let's just say that I put it in this IRA, traditional IRA. And one of the traditional IRAs that I have sits at about 3%. So I entered that into the computer, 300 and something thousand. 300 and something 100,000. So imagine that. Imagine that. Like, when you think of that number, when you think that your mother or your father might have contributed around 135,000 to their church, and if they would have given themselves just 10%, that same 10% that they gave to God, if they would have put it into a mutual fund or a Roth IRA or their 401k, which, like I said, I've never worked in a corporation, so I don't understand the ins and outs of a 401k. And I just wonder if the percentage rate sits more at 7%, because I noticed when I went into the financial calculator, the standard setting that it had was 7%. And I was like, whoa, 7%. Sometimes I get 7% on the stock market, and I've seen 7% in a mutual fund, but not with an IRA or Roth IRA or anything like that. But just imagine, like, your elder who has contributed potentially 135,000, that 135,000 could have turned into 300,000, 300 and some change by the time they retire. Like, do you think if they would have done that for themselves, that they would have to put a reverse mortgage on their house? And do you think that if they went to the church and asked them for help on their mortgage, I don't know what kind of help they could give, but if they went to their church and asked for help as a normal, regular, faithful tithe-paying member, that church would help them, or what would they say if you presented them the numbers? Because from what I've seen, a lot of the leadership definitely did what they were supposed to do in regards to saving. How do I know? Because I, I've 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 attended a few churches, and I always noticed that even before retirement age, these pastors were doing quite nice for their families. They were purchasing homes. But also when it came time to retire, folks was able to just kick back and relax and not have a worry in the world. And I just wonder if they thought to teach financial literacy in their institution, because a church is an institution. So, anybody out there who is attending church regularly, I highly recommend, if there aren't financial literacy classes in your church, that you petition your elders, petition your pastor, and ask them, like, hey, what do you think about getting us some financial literacy up in here? Because clearly the market, the customer is there. I mean, nobody wants to look at parishioners in a real light like that as customers, but you are a customer of that church if you paying your money every week. So, wouldn't you want to take care of your people? Wouldn't you want to make sure that they all right? Like, make sure that they understand the importance of giving to themselves as well as to God, as well as to their community. I know that it is up to me as an individual to learn, and still there is so much that being in a community should give you, right? That's the whole purpose of like how they say it take a village to raise a child. Like the village is our community. The village should be lending all of the knowledge that a person is willing to absorb. And I say willing to absorb because I remember um people trying to tell me things when I was younger, and I was like, matter of fact, I speak to a few of the millennials now. Um, One in particular, I remember she was trying to purchase a bag that she couldn't even pronounce the designer's name, which I thought was quite odd, but that's your business. And she had just got through saying, I really want to buy a home. And I'm like, shoot, today buying a home doesn't look like what it looked like back in the day. Like they had all kind of programs where you could do 3% down and 7% down. And now a 30-year fixed loan, they want you to come in with 20% down. Well, if the median value in America for homes is what, and I know this ain't it, but I'm gonna just say 450,000. Y'all know I like fours and fives. We'll say $450,000 is the average cost of a home in America. Like I said, I know that's not accurate. But if that's the case and you need 20% down, how many people really have $90,000? Hmm? And if you're trying to get to 90,000, you're not going to get there buying Birkin bags and Louis Vuittons and Yves Saint Laurent and all of that stuff like you. And who are we trying to impress? Again, get yourself a nice quality bag and keep it pushing. Because as one of my elders told me, honey, if you got all kind of designer bags and you driving all kind of designer car and you pulling up to an apartment, you've got your priorities twisted around. And I remember when she told me that I didn't want to hear it, but I heeded what she was saying and I was actually doing it. I pulled up every day in my little Jag and honey, I felt good living in a luxury apartment complex. And it's like a lot of people don't realize that rent is more than mortgage. Now, in this market today, which is very interesting, which is why we want to speak to the realtors later on in the seasoning, I definitely feel like the market is about to flip because now people are putting mortgages on houses that cost more than rent. And that is imbalance. That's not how the economy runs, that's not how it thrives. Normally, your renters are supposed to be paying more than your buyers. A mortgage with your taxes and insurance and all of that stuff included is supposed to be less. But like I said, we're in a market to where it's normal to have a $2,800 mortgage on like a 1,200-foot house. That's ridiculous, especially when people can go and get 1,000-foot apartment and they're not paying as much as you're paying in mortgage. Like that's going to change. The interest rates are high right now. That's going to change because the economy goes like this. So this book, Everyday Millionaires, this is my book recommendation for the month. My bonus book that I would like everyone to read is called Think Like an Economist. And that is going to be by the Great Courses. And again, if you don't want to read it in your hands or on digital format, listen to it. Think Like an Economist. It is available through the Great Courses. And I noticed that the Great Courses also has um, that available in their archives as well. That book really helped me to understand how the economy moves and how it works and how it goes just like this. And that's how people are able to make money in day trade with the stock market. That's how people in real estate are able to buy low and sell high, you know? So all of these house costs going up and the interest rates going up, it's going to happen again. Anybody that want to sell their house is going to be upside down and will have to sit on it for some time or come to the table with thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars to get out of the house. And trust you me, it's about to happen because what ends up happening, and they explain it in Thinking Like an Economist, is when somebody presents the idea to you to do a mortgage for 3,200 a month, if you have a big old cache of savings, rainy day fund, and emergency fund, and college fund, and insurance, and 401k, people are tempted to pull from their 401k to be able to afford this house. It's like, oh, okay, I got an extra that I need $90,000 to purchase this house. I got, maybe 400 and something so far in my 401k. I still have another 15 years before it's time to retire. I can make some of that money back. I'll take 100,000 from that and then I'll put it into my house. Well, in doing that, you set yourself up for failure. Especially if you thought, oh, I'll just stay in this house for a few years and then I'll sell it and I'll make it back on the equity end and I'll be able to put that money back in my 401k because hopefully my home value jumps up, $200,000 in 5 years or whatever. you know it's going to be a setup because they're going to run out of funds. They're going to start tapping into, some people are already doing it, tapping into their savings. I know people that are doing this, tapping into their savings to pay their every month bills. Now if your savings look like 200,000, 100, maybe 50,000, and you just chipping away 5,000 a month here, and you do good for a few months, and then you got to take 3,000 this month, like that money, the same way you built it in slow, honey, chipping away from it, that's a dangerous thing because you chip away from it and it'll disappear on you slow too. You don't believe me? Think about how you gain weight. I love sweet potato pie. I will make a sweet potato pie and I'll eat the whole daggone thing for myself. But I won't do it in one day. I make the pie and I'll take about a week to a week and a half to eat the pie. And if I do that once a month, and maybe the next month I make a pound cake and give half of the cake away, but I still ate half of the cake myself. Before I know it, I'm gonna gain some weight. And you be sitting there talking about, where did this weight come from? You having a little slice for breakfast, a little slice for lunch, and then another one for dessert. It's the same thing with our money. Like when we get to dipping into our emergency fund, into our savings, into our rainy day fund, before you know it, you don't have nothing left. And then you're in big trouble. And then that's when the foreclosures begin. So you really want to make sure that you study before you make even your investment purchases as well. Because if you're buying it when it's high, you're not gonna do too well if you decide to sell it. And another thing that Chris talks about in here is like the 30-year mortgage. He said 30-year mortgage is the biggest hustle ever. And if you think about it and you look at your amortization chart, it really is, because you think, oh, I'm gaining equity. Yes, you're gaining equity. But if you're paying it, if you take the full 30 years to pay off that house, you might actually not really have equity. Your equity might actually be an illusion, because really all that extra money is money that you paid because you wanted a smaller payment for a longer amount of time. You paid that in interest. Sometimes if you look at your amortization chart and you see how much interest you pay by actually going ahead and following through with a 30-year mortgage, you would send in extra payments every chance you get, if you can. But most times you can't. Again, $400 a month on Starbucks, another 400 going out to eat and drinking at the club or whatever, and 400 going out to eat and drinking at the club. That's meager, because I know I've been places where $400 happens in one night. And since I know a lot of people are really out here living their best life, YOLO, right? that 400 can go quick. So it might be more than that you're spending. Like, tighten it up, cook more, so that you can get to your retirement and not end up being a greeter at Walmart. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being a greeter at Walmart. What I am saying is if you thought that you would reach 65 and just be able to retire on your Social Security and you have no other choice than to be a greeter at Walmart, that's not going to feel so good, right? Let me check some more of these comments. I know I've been talking a lot, y'all. Hey, William. So Charles says if you put a little here and there, you will be surprised at how much you put away and save. Honey, isn't that the truth? I have a girlfriend that she tells me this story, so I have the liberty to share it, and I have her permission, don't worry. But she got pregnant early. She got pregnant when she was in college. And from the moment she had her son and went back to work, she said that she had them take $50 out of every check. Just $50, right? And the young man graduated from high school a couple of years ago, and now he's about to graduate from his master's program in college. And she said, "Girl, I looked up," and this was him graduating from high school. She said, "I looked up and I wasn't paying attention. The 50 was just coming out of every check. Every company that I worked at, that 50 came out." And she was doing her thing, contributing to her 401k and all of this stuff, but she was putting that money for him in a college fund savings. And she said by the time he graduated, he had more money than she did. She had created more wealth for him than she had created for herself. But she's a mom, so she's like, "Nah, this is for my baby." And it's true, little by little. How you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Take it, don't devalue the small things. The Bible says, "Despise not the little things." What you think they talking about? They talking about everything, right? That's right, Charles. If you put away a little bit here and there, you will be surprised at how much you can save. He said, "Slow and steady wins the race." And he came back and said, "It's not a race, it's a marathon." Now, honey, I know that to be true. I'm a swimmer. I swam since the age of 7, and that's my kitty baby, y'all. I swam since the age of 7, and I was the distance swimmer. I never wanted to do the relays or the sprint races. I was like, "No, don't put me in that," because everybody that know me know I move at the pace of a turtle. I like to take my time in everything I do. And I would beat the bricks off of them girls at them other schools because I would just get in. I would do a 500, which is 20 laps back and forth. That's 500 meters. And I would just get a good song in my head and jump in that pool. And I would just take my time and set my pace. And I would and little by little, I would look under my arm and I see my opponent getting further and further and further behind me. And then just by being steady, before you know it, I would be like 2 whole lengths of the pool ahead of them. And they didn't realize it because they weren't distance swimmers. They were more like sprint swimmers. So they come out the gate like, "I'm gonna just kill it. I'm gonna just kill it." And then the next thing you know, you get tired and you're like, "Okay, let me slow down. Let me slow down." And then before you know it, I done kind of creeped past you, and then I'm 2 whole pool lengths ahead of you. And by the end of the race, we on 18 laps, and I got 2 more to go. And because I done paced myself, mhm, and took my time, next thing you know, I got energy to move, and I can kill you on them last 2 laps because I'm like, okay, I've been chilling this whole time. 18 laps, I'm just nice and steady, slow and steady. Last 2 laps, I would kill it and I would bring it in, and that was my tactic. That was how I would win my races. And if you put me in a sprint race, it wasn't gonna work out so well. And my coaches knew that. They knew, like, oh no, she's a distance swimmer. Slow and steady wins the race. Y'all remember that parable of the hare and the turtle? I used that last year, The rabbit and the turtle getting into a race, and rabbit's like, this dude's slow. I'm about to chill and take a nap under the tree or whatever. And the turtle's just like doo, 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 walking, walking, walking. And next thing you know, Turtle done won the race. And Rabbit thought, cause the turtle was so slow that he was like, I could take a nap and I can afford to chill for a little bit. And then I'm going to get up and I'm going to beat him. And that's not how it happened, right? Slow and steady wins the race. Tis not a race, it's a marathon. Charles says you definitely want to at least give what they match. That's true too, Charles. I never thought about that because sometimes people will look at their budget and they're like, "Oh well, the company is gonna give this much, so I can lay back and chill." And you taking that mentality of the hair again, right? Like, oh, well, if the company is gonna give this much, then I might as well just chill a little bit and I can actually afford that new Yukon, and it's like, nah, you want to at least match them. And really, you want to go above that. Got to have your priorities straight. Yes, sir. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And he dropped the thing in the book in there for the book, Everyday Millionaires and Think Like an Economist. If you go to my Instagram, I actually have the book up. But again, it is Everyday Millionaires by Chris Hogan. And then the Think Like an Economist. Like I said, Think Like an Economist is not a regular book. It is within the great courses. And if anyone has ever listened to the great courses before, those are like lectures given by college professors. So they're not really books, they're lectures, but you can listen to them. And a lot of times they actually come with accompanying PDF. Charles says sweet potato pie and pineapple upside down cake are my favorite. I've never had a pineapple upside down cake. I've always been curious about those, like what they're like, what they taste like, what the consistency is on them. I'm like a texture person. So like some things are very like I will not eat carrot cake because it has too many things in it and there's too many textures going on at once. And I will not eat fruit cake because the same thing. Oh, here come brother Robert Dickerson. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Another thing um, that we often don't talk about in the community is life insurance. That sometimes only comes up when someone has already made their transition. And unfortunately, it's too late then, right? And I know that a lot of people, when hardship hits, what I've noticed is life insurance, which is crazy to me, but in the community, what I have seen is when those those of us who have garnered a life insurance policy for ourselves, when hardship comes up and you got to cut the budget because it's such a big bill, depending on what you purchased, that will be the first thing to go. And I'm telling you that if you care about your family and their future, you need to acquire a life insurance policy that fits your lifestyle. In my opinion, a whole life policy is the best way to go. And they have this thing called a 10 pay, a 15 pay, or a 20 pay. And those Those numbers on there are for the amount of time that it takes you to pay it off. The younger a person is, the cheaper insurance is, life insurance, and the larger the amount you can get. And with those pay policies, the 15 pay, the 10 pay, and the 20 pay, you'll be finished paying that policy off in 10, 15, or 20 years, which means once you finish paying the last payment on that policy, that 15 years is up, you don't got to pay for life insurance no more. In my opinion, that is the best policy to have because you don't want to have to be paying on it for the rest of your life. Like you want something that is going to incur value. And also with those 15 pays, they pay you a yield, a percentage yield, and they also pay you a dividend. Now, I'm going to bring a professional on later in the season to really explain how those policies work for you because, like I said, I know that life insurance in our community is one of those topics that people just would rather not talk about because they feel like it's something that they can't afford. But what happens when you don't have life insurance and you pass away and you leave your family behind to, process your remains and give you a proper burial, you immediately put your family in debt. Immediately. And that's the difference between people who are building a legacy and people who are not paying attention to legacy building. Charles says, put that back up, Charles. Charles said, life insurance is for those that are left behind. Definitely something that needs to be talked about more in our communities. He ain't lying. Life insurance is for those that are left behind. And you see people pass away in the community, and the first thing that come out is the collection plate. Or today, it's the GoFundMe. I had a girlfriend in my industry that just passed away and made her transition a couple of months back, and we, had to put a GoFundMe together for her. And I kept checking in on the GoFundMe and I would donate what I could as we went along, to see the progress. And by the end of it, the amount that we gathered, I was like, that's just going to be enough to cremate her and to pay the people for the memorial service. Um, but what about the children left behind, the grandchildren left behind? Like life insurance policies are how a lot of wealthy people have garnered their wealth. As a matter of fact, if you go back to slavery, which they had life insurance. The slave owners had life insurance on the slaves. So just think about that for a minute. They said we weren't human, that we were property, yet they had life insurance policies on our ancestors. And they took those policies and built their family wealth on our family death. And they say that they don't want to pay no reparations. I find that very interesting. I think that way more than reparations is old. That's another topic for another day, right? Charles said, I got all of my grandchildren life insurance policies, right? That is a wonderful gift for grandparents. And it's more reasonable the younger they are. Like, I think about how much life insurance I was actually able to afford myself when I started my policy. And I had my insurance agent run the numbers for if I would have started it when I was 20. The cost difference was ridiculous. I basically could have tripled the policy that I have now and made the same payment that I make today for triple the amount of coverage. That's mind boggling. On top of that, with the policy that I have acquired, I now get paid a dividend and it accumulates interest. So I've got to go talk to them like, oh, do I want to keep this? Do I want to let this dividend feed back into the policy until I retire and then collect the dividends then so that also, builds into my retirement fund? Or do I want to take it now and try to invest it where I think it'll be fit and where it'll grow? I haven't decided yet. I'm definitely going to have that conversation with my financial advisor. But again, just think when it comes to um, marginalization and how marginalization happens, it is a nasty web. It's not coming at you in just one direction. Marginalization comes at you as a community from numerous directions. You got taxes, you got medical insurance, you got life insurance, you got slavery, you got the educational system, you have the penal system, you got the educational system feeding into the penal system. So all of this is happening and it has been cleverly thought out, strategically put into action. And we as a people have to strategically create our shields like Neo in the Matrix, you know. And you might not be able to get everything done in your lifetime, but what you get done is a contribution to the pot, to the community. When it comes to teaching financial education, like Charles said, he got life insurance policies for all of his grandchildren. It's better to give your grandchildren life insurance policies than Oculus glasses and PlayStations and Jordans. Don't forget about Jordans. What else do people be getting their grandkids? Bikes and all of that stuff. $1,000 iPhones. Like, no, they can't see the benefits of that policy today. Maybe they can't understand it. But when you're long gone and it begins to unfold and pay out, they're going to be grateful. They're going to be like, oh, wow, my granddaddy really loved me. And maybe while he was here, I didn't quite understand it because I told him, or I told my grandmama that I needed $300 for some J's. And she was like, no, I contributed to your life insurance policy, or no, I contributed to your college fund. You have to explain and teach financial literacy to your children as you learn, right? Because all of our parents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had while they were raising us and with the amount of resources that they had. They did the best that they could. As parents, I think, especially in the community, we're learning so much on the back end. Most of my financial education has come from the hard knocks of life, living it now. And now that I see what I could have created with all that I had, especially all that money that I blew through, and I do mean blew through in my 20s. If I was given the education so that I could then do the application for myself, my retirement fund would look even more great than what it looks right now. And I wouldn't be trying to play catch up. I'm playing catch up like a mofo. And I'm okay with that because I blew it out, the water in my 20s. I was all over the place in other countries and all this stuff. I got passport, my passport ran out of pages. Um so now I'm cool with chilling and not dropping 7 G's on a trip, which is ridiculous. Do y'all know that they upped the IRA contribution this year? The limit is now $7,000. Just think if you maxed that amount out, especially the gig population, those of us who work for ourselves. I remember when we were in the pandemic, this was the first time in US history that the government gave unemployment to gig workers. I was so grateful because that covered me. I remember thinking, wow, we're gonna we're gonna actually be eligible for unemployment. That's great. And I remember um all of the things people bought with their unemployment. Some people even got plastic surgery. What you do is your business, and what you sow into your own life, you're gonna reap, you know, in time. So I pulled my budget back even harder during the pandemic and made myself live off of less so that I could take that extra and really get a foothold on contributing to my retirement. And I'm grateful because I can see the compound interest, I can see the interest, and I'm like, wow, really is something to this. So what I have to say to everyone out there today, before I say it, let me ask you this. What do y'all think is the appropriate age that you should start teaching your children financial literacy? I'll wait. Yeah, I want to hear what everybody has to say. And while you guys are coming up with that number, something that you might not have thought about, that you also might want to think about, when we have our kids, we assign them godparents, right? And that godparent is to take care of that child if something should happen to you. So, in the event that something happens and you're gone, if you didn't have a trust that also goes with that child, think about how their life might immensely change if you're not here. Because you, as their parent, you're going to work hard. You're going to go hard in the paint. Whatever your baby needs, you're going to get it. You're going to work 3 jobs if you got to, right? I think people have made wise decisions. Sorry. Oh, that's my baby. She's making noise. Um, I think many people have made wise decisions in regards to who they've chosen to be the godparents of their children. What you might not have thought about, though, is what you also need to leave behind to take care of that child. And that is the conversation of life insurance policies, trust funds, college funds. Those are things that can be transferred if something happens to you. Charles says, when they are able to hold a conversation. And I agree with that. As soon as you're able to ask me if you can get this piece of candy off the shelf in the store, that's when financial literacy can begin. Soon as you think you deserve an allowance, financial literacy, that's when it should be there. I hope I've given everybody some food for thought tonight. And I hope that you'll tune in for the rest of the season to see who I have in store to come and talk to you. If you have some topics that go along with finance and questions that you'd like to have answered, please hit me up on my IG at Calysōl_official. And yeah, I'll try to work those questions into the conversation. I thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Um, I'm so grateful to be able to do this again. I thank Charles. I thank all of you out there who support this network, the Feel Good Talk Network. And until next time, y'all, take care.